my own voice. My own moan. It was shameless, loud, almost trembling out of my lips like I had no control over myself. His mouth was buried against my skin, his weight pressing me into the mattress of that cheap motel room we had chosen for our reckless escape. Every thrust pierced deeper, and I felt my body betray me with wave after wave of raw pleasure. That was the moment I knew, my lust had become stronger than my sense. But before I sink you deeper into that night, before I expose more of the forbidden parts of my secret, let me pause and tell you this: if you're here, listening to my confession, craving more of the stories people hide behind locked doors, then please, subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share it with someone who has the courage to listen to truths coated in lust and regret. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. I wasn't unhappy in my marriage, not entirely. I had a roof over my head, a husband who paid the bills, and a life that looked clean from the outside. But what people don't see is what goes on behind closed doors, the quiet beds, the untouched bodies, the nights when silence becomes heavier than intimacy. I was 32, and somewhere along the way, my body had turned into something forgotten. My husband loved me, yes, but he had stopped wanting me. His kisses had turned into quick pecks, his touches into casual pats. The woman inside me, the one who still craved, still burned, was starving. It was on one of those ordinary afternoons that I met him. He wasn't supposed to matter. He was just the younger man who worked part-time at the bookstore near my gym. A boy, at least that's what I thought at first, mid-20s, tall, with a body that spoke of long hours lifting weights, and a grin that lingered too long when he looked at me. Afternoon, he said that first day, sliding my book across the counter. His fingers brushed mine. Maybe it was an accident, maybe not. But the spark that jolted through me told me it was more than casual. I laughed nervously, pulling the book close. "Thanks. You like romance thrillers?" he asked, his voice low, casual, yet edged with something playful. "Yes," I replied. My heart raced at the way his eyes locked on mine, like he could see something hidden behind them. "Well," he smirked, "I've got a few recommendations. But maybe I should tell you in person over coffee?" I should have walked away. I should have said no. But hunger makes you weak. Hunger makes you reckless. That first coffee turned into a conversation that felt alive. Unlike the dry exchanges I had at home, he made me feel seen, wanted. His laughter was raw, his compliments unfiltered. And when he leaned closer and whispered, "You know, you've got a body that makes it hard for a man to concentrate," something inside me melted. It didn't happen all at once. Temptation rarely does. First, it was lingering texts. Then late-night calls, our voices low so no one else would hear. Then came the moment he brushed my arm outside the cafe and didn't move away, his hand sliding down like it belonged there. By the time he kissed me, I was already gone. It was behind the bookstore, late evening. His lips crashed onto mine, his hands gripping my waist like he'd been waiting forever. I gasped, but I didn't push him away. I pulled him closer. That kiss ignited every nerve, every starved piece of me that had been waiting to feel alive again. When we finally pulled apart, breathless, he whispered, "You taste like trouble." And I knew I was in it. I should have stopped there. I should have gone home, buried myself in shame, and prayed for forgiveness. But lust doesn't work like that. Lust is a drug, you taste it once, and suddenly your veins burn for more. The first time we crossed the final line was in that motel room. The sheets smelled of bleach, the lights were too dim, and everything about it screamed wrong. But when he undressed me, when his eyes roamed over me like I was the only woman in the world, none of that mattered. His body was younger, stronger, hungrier. And when he pushed into me, I cried out so loud I had to bury my face in the pillow. It wasn't just the size, though God knows he filled me in ways I hadn't felt in years. It was the way he owned me, the way my body betrayed me by begging for more. I moaned, shamelessly. I clawed at his back. I begged him not to stop. That was the night I realized my lust wasn't just dangerous, it was destructive. "I'll stop here for now. But don't go anywhere, because this was just the beginning. My lust only grew stronger, my choices darker, and my regrets deeper. If you're still with me, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share it. There's more. Much more. Because once I gave in to his huge pistol, once I drowned in that ocean of forbidden pleasure, I found out there's no easy way back. I should have walked away after that first night. I should have tucked my shame into silence and never looked back. But if you've ever tasted forbidden fruit, you know one bite is never enough. And with him, God, it was never enough. The morning after our first motel escape, I woke up to his hand still resting on my hip, his breathing heavy beside me. I was supposed to feel regret. Instead, I felt alive. My skin still tingled from his touch, my thighs ached from the way he had owned me all night, and deep inside, I burned for more. I slipped quietly out of bed, dressed in silence, and caught my reflection in the cracked motel mirror. My hair was a mess, my lips swollen from his kisses, and my eyes carried a glow I hadn't seen in years. I looked like a woman who had been claimed, ravished, and satisfied. I hated myself for loving it. Leaving already? His voice came groggy from behind me. I froze, guilty, before glancing back. He was sprawled across the sheets, naked, his body shamelessly on display, broad chest, firm abs, and below, the very thing that had ruined me. He smirked lazily when he noticed where my eyes landed. "Come back," he murmured, patting the bed beside him. "I'm not done with you yet." I should have said no. I should have walked out. But instead, I dropped my purse and climbed back into his arms. The moment his hands gripped me again, my body betrayed me with hunger. His lips found mine, and before I could think, I was moaning into his mouth, begging for another round of the very sin that would later haunt me. If you're listening right now, I'll remind you, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share it. Stories like mine aren't written in books. They're whispered in shadows. And I'm giving you all of mine. After that, it became a routine. We found corners of the city to meet. Sometimes the backseat of his car, sometimes hotel rooms, sometimes even his small apartment when his roommate was away. Each time, he left me trembling, gasping, undone. He had no shame in how he wanted me. There was one afternoon that stays branded in my memory. We met at his place, the blinds drawn tight. The moment I walked in, he pinned me against the wall, his lips crashing into mine before I could even set my purse down. His hands roamed everywhere, greedy, unapologetic. "God, you drive me crazy," he growled against my neck. "I can't stop thinking about you." And then, before I could even catch my breath, he lifted me, pressed me against the wall, and thrust into me with a hunger that tore a moan from deep within me. My nails dug into his shoulders, my head fell back, and I screamed his name like a woman who had forgotten she ever belonged to someone else. That day, the neighbors must have heard. I didn't care. Lust had blinded me. He knew exactly what he was doing to me. The way his body filled me, the way he whispered filth in my ear, the way he watched me lose control, it all drove me deeper. Into the addiction. I started lying to my husband more often. Doctor's appointments that didn't exist. Yoga classes I never attended. Coffee dates with friends that were really sweaty hours in a stranger's sheets. And every time I told a lie, I swore it would be the last. But the truth is, I didn't want it to stop. I wanted more. There was one night, weeks later, when he pushed me further than ever before. We had checked into a motel again, the kind with buzzing neon lights and peeling wallpaper. The air smelled faintly of cigarettes, but I didn't care. I was already half undressed before the door even clicked shut. "Slow down," I laughed breathlessly as he tugged at my blouse. "No," he growled, his lips capturing mine. "I've been starving for you all day." And then, like a storm, he took me. Hard, deep, relentless. My cries filled the room, my nails scraped down his back, and I lost myself in wave after wave of ecstasy. It wasn't just sex. It was surrender. It was me handing over every piece of myself to a man who wasn't mine. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't just cheating. I was addicted. Somewhere in the middle of all this, I started noticing something darker. The guilt wasn't gone, it just changed. Instead of pushing me to stop, it fueled me. Every time I looked at my husband and lied through my teeth, my body craved the punishment of being taken harder, deeper, filthier. It was like regret had turned into gasoline, and lust was the fire. I would tell myself, this is the last time, but even as I said it, I was already planning the next. That's how lust works. It doesn't knock gently. It barges in, burns everything you thought was safe, and leaves you begging for the very thing that destroys you. And trust me, this was only the beginning. Before I close this chapter, let me say again, subscribe, like, and share. Because the next part of my story? That's where regret began to creep in. That's where the line between pleasure and pain started to blur. Because drowning in his ocean felt too good, until I realized I couldn't swim back to shore. You know, when you taste something so sweet, so forbidden, you forget that poison also tastes good before it kills. That was me. By now, I wasn't sneaking around just once a week. I was inventing reasons to see him 3, sometimes 4 times. If my husband worked late, I was gone. If he traveled for business, I all but moved into that stranger's bed. I had traded the quiet rhythm of my married life for chaos, moans muffled into pillows, tangled sheets that smelled of sweat and lust, whispered promises that weren't mine to keep. And yet, every time, I swore it would be the last. The turning point came on a humid Friday night. We were in his apartment again, the blinds drawn, the fan buzzing weakly in the corner. He had me pressed against the kitchen counter, his mouth devouring mine as his hands roamed lower. The thrill was as sharp as ever, my body trembling, my lips swollen, my heart racing with that wild mix of fear and desire. But then, my phone rang. I froze. It was my husband. His name flashing across the screen felt like a slap to my face. For a moment, my chest tightened with panic. "Don't answer," my lover whispered against my neck, his hand still working at my dress. But I did. My voice shook as I forced cheer into it, lying about grabbing dinner with an old friend. And while I lied, he kissed the curve of my shoulder, slid inside me, and made me gasp so loud I had to cover the phone. That moment broke something in me. I hung up, tossed the phone aside, and gave myself over completely, half out of lust, half out of madness. He made me moan into his ear, made me cry out against his chest, and when it was over, I lay trembling, guilty tears burning the corners of my eyes. It was the first time I realized I wasn't just cheating. I was destroying myself. Halfway through this story, let me pause and remind you, like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share it with someone who loves raw, real stories. You don't get confessions like this anywhere else. After that night, the spiral deepened. I began craving not just his body, but the danger. The risk of being caught turned me on even more. I would text him from the bathroom while my husband sat in the living room. I would sneak panties into my purse, knowing they'd never come home with me. I would smell his sweat on my skin long after I showered, terrified but addicted to the trace of him lingering. One time, I almost got caught. I came home late, hair still damp from a rushed shower at the motel, and my husband leaned in close to kiss me. My stomach twisted when I realized I still smelled faintly of another man. I laughed nervously, brushed him off with some excuse about being sweaty from yoga. He believed me. But I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how close I was to losing everything. My marriage. My home. My name. And yet, when morning came, I texted my lover again. I couldn't stop. There was a night tea. That sealed my regret forever. He had taken me to a bar on the edge of town, one of those dark, loud places where no one cared who you were. We drank too much, laughed too loud, and by the time we stumbled into the bathroom stall, I didn't care about dignity anymore. He pulled me onto his lap, my skirt bunched around my waist, my hands clinging to his shoulders as he drove into me recklessly. My moans mixed with the pounding music outside, my body burning with fire I couldn't extinguish. And then, someone banged on the stall door. "Hey! Hurry the hell up!" I froze, terror shooting through me. My lover just smirked, whispered in my ear, "Don't stop now." And God help me, I didn't. I rode him harder, muffling my cries against his neck until I collapsed against him, breathless and ruined. When we finally stumbled out, strangers stared. Some knew exactly what we'd been doing. Shame burned my cheeks, but deep inside, I still wanted more. That's when I knew I was lost. Here's the truth. Lust is never satisfied. It takes, and takes, and takes, until there's nothing left of you but hunger. And in that moment, sitting in his car afterward, my head on his chest, I realized I wasn't chasing pleasure anymore. I was running from regret. So if you're still listening, make sure you subscribe, like, and share. Because in the next part of my story, everything I thought I was controlling started slipping out of my hands. And trust me, the deeper I sank in his ocean, the harder it became to breathe. I used to think I was the one in control. That I could taste the fire without getting burned, touch the edge without falling over. But lust doesn't bargain. It doesn't let you sip, it drowns you, pulls you under, and leaves you gasping for air you'll never find. And that's exactly what happened to me. It was a Sunday morning when the weight of it all hit me the hardest. My husband was in the kitchen, humming softly while making pancakes. The smell of butter filled the air. It should have been one of those perfect, cozy mornings. But I was still aching between my thighs, still raw from the night before with another man. I sat at the table, staring at my husband, feeling like a stranger in my own house. He smiled at me, slid a plate across, kissed my forehead. My stomach twisted. I had moaned another man's name into the dark just hours ago. And now, I was sipping coffee from the mug my husband had bought me years ago, the one that said, "Forever yours." I almost choked on the irony. Later that day, I found myself texting my lover again, arranging another meeting. That's when the punishment began. It wasn't just my guilt eating me alive, it was the fact that my body refused to let go. The more guilty I felt, the more I wanted him. The more I wanted him, the more I hated myself. It was a vicious loop, one I couldn't break free from. Let me pause here to remind you, subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share it if you're caught in the spell of these raw confessions. Your support keeps these stories alive. The punishment wasn't just emotional. It became physical too. One night, he took me harder than ever before. My back pressed into the motel wall, my legs wrapped around him, his thrusts relentless. I bit into his shoulder to muffle my screams, clawing at him like I was possessed. When it was over, my body trembled so violently I could barely stand. He laughed, lit a cigarette, and told me, "You're addicted. You'll never stop coming back." And the worst part? He was right. I started to feel hollow. After every high came a low so heavy it crushed me. I'd walk back into my quiet home, see my husband reading on the couch, and want to cry. Not because I loved him less, but because I had given the most intimate parts of myself to someone else, and there was no way to take it back. The more I tried to stop, the deeper I fell. It was like being chained to a storm. The breaking point came on a night I'll never forget. He had called me, demanding I come over. I told him I couldn't. My husband was home. He didn't care. He told me he needed me. And like a fool, I went. We met at the back of his car, parked in a dark alley. It was reckless, dangerous, and I was shaking with both fear and arousal. He pulled me onto him right there in the back seat, my skirt riding up, the windows fogging as his hands gripped me. Every thrust was raw punishment, a reminder that I had lost control. And yet, my M.O. Moans filled the car, my body betraying my conscience. When it ended, I sat there, sweaty and broken, staring at my reflection in the fogged glass. I didn't see myself anymore. I saw a woman who had traded love for lust, who had become a stranger to her own life. By then, I knew it wasn't just lust anymore. It was destruction. And soon, the regret would drown me completely. So don't forget, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this story with someone who loves dark, real, unfiltered confessions. Because in my next chapter, you'll hear how everything I thought I could hide started catching up with me. And believe me, punishment doesn't just stop at the heart. Sometimes, it takes everything. You know how they say the body forgets, but the soul never does? That's the curse I live with every single day. It wasn't one moment that ruined me, it was the slow build of them all. The motel rooms, the backseat trysts, the rushed kisses in dark corners. At the time, it felt like oxygen. Like I was suffocating in my marriage and he was the only one who could make me breathe again. But what no one tells you is that lust doesn't stop when you walk out of the room. It follows you. It clings to your skin like smoke, crawls into your sheets, whispers in your ear when you're trying to sleep. And soon, it rotted everything. The morning my husband looked me in the eyes and asked, "Are you happy with me?" was the moment my heart cracked. He wasn't suspicious. He wasn't accusing. He was simply worried. He could see the distance, feel the way my body lay stiff in bed at night, sense the smile that no longer reached my eyes. And all I could do was lie. I whispered, "Of course I'm happy." But inside, I was drowning. That night, I went to my lover again. It wasn't even passion anymore, it was desperation. I clung to him, clawed at him, begged him to make me forget the look in my husband's eyes. He pinned me down, thrust into me like I was nothing more than a body he owned, and for a while, I let myself disappear. The moans, the sweat, the shaking release, it was all there. But when it ended, so did the illusion. I cried in his arms. He pushed me away, annoyed. "Don't bring feelings into this," he said. "You knew what this was." That was when I realized, I was nothing more than a secret, a shadow, a warm body he could use. And I had destroyed the man who truly loved me, for this. Loudspeaker, let me pause here and remind you, if you're still with me, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and share it with someone who needs to hear the dangers of playing with lust. Because these stories aren't fantasies, they're scars. After that night, I couldn't look at myself. I started avoiding mirrors. I avoided my husband's touch. Every time he reached for me, I felt like glass about to shatter. The lover eventually moved on, like men like him always do. He found someone else, someone fresher, someone who didn't cry in the afterglow. And me? I was left with the wreckage. Now, when I sit alone at night, I replay it all. The heat, the moans, the reckless highs, and the cold silence that followed. I wanted ecstasy. I wanted to be wanted so badly that I gave pieces of myself I can never take back. But ecstasy fades. Regret doesn't. So here I am. Anonymous. Confessing to strangers, because I can't confess to the man I promised forever to. I'll carry this secret to my grave. I'll carry the shame, the guilt, and the memory of a lust so fierce it ruined me. And maybe that's why I'm telling you, so someone out there, listening, watching, won't make the same mistake I did. Broken heart if you've stayed with me till the end. And, do me one favor, subscribe, like this video, and share it. Not just for me, but for the lessons inside this story. Because sometimes, lust feels like freedom. But the truth? It can chain you tighter than love ever will. And once you sink into that ocean without rescue, there's no swimming back to shore. Backhand index pointing right, that seals the final chapter, the regret.